Welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave. A little bit of a later start for myself this morning. Do want to wish you a nice and happy start to your Monday morning and a new week of perhaps even some very dastardly opportunity. I've been up since 1 a.m. shitting my brains out because I've had food poisoning, or I think at least, and I am feeling absolutely terrible right now. Anyways, let's go talk about some cryptocurrency analysis, as we do see the open interest is actually crawling its way above the range that we've been kind of caught in for the last month or so, between that 1.5 billion and 1.7.5 billion marker. Now, this is all coming after prices coming down to the low side of a range about 89.50, which we did talk about yesterday. So I want to follow up on that, but this is going to perhaps change around some of the higher term time frame analysis here, or maybe not change it around, but start to formulate a little bit of a different bias here. However, at the end of the day, the price levels for the higher term time frame is still more or less the same. I mean, they quite literally haven't been changed, and they are still within the confines of the current price action. So with that said, I still look at this as kind of like a more experimental type thing, as this is really the first sort of novel information that we really have to look at with regards to it. But still want to see a break of the big range plus a split up of this open interest, of which I think it's kind of already getting outside of that range that we've seen for the last month or so. So that to me is a big deal, but now I need to see price action follow through with it. Anyways, on top of that, we see Bitcoin dominance curling up a little bit as it's once again back above 65%. So altcoins not keeping pace with Bitcoin, or actually more so outpacing Bitcoin to the downside, perhaps. Better said, fear and greed index also taken down to a 37 as well from a 40 on Sunday. And I think it's now time to go look at some good old Bitcoin price action running over here. So looking at Bitcoin on the daily, we do see that it actually has taken that leg to the downside, as we spoke about yesterday. Now, I didn't really have like a strong opinion in the short-term timeframes yesterday. Yes, momentum and direction was down, but realistically, I wasn't interested in trading this myself yesterday. The key component that we were looking for to kind of get that next leg down was hit by taking out the low side of 12th of June at 9,300-ish region. Also got obviously the 4-hour total closure below that 200x benchmark average we spoke about as well, which did spin off that next big perhaps a term of endearment here, or a relative term leg to the downside, hitting the downside area of our long-term support trend line coming in from 10th of May lows, connected with our 25th of May lows right in over here, and still holding what looks to be potentially an ascending triangle. However, we're kind of at like the do or die moment of this, as Bitcoin does ride this one up. So far so good, but the second that we start to break down below this, especially below 8,900 on a 12-hour or daily total closure, the same sort of things that we've been speaking about for the last few weeks will apply. Same thing for the upside above 9,900, but as you can see, we're obviously a lot closer to initiating the downside. So right now it's the more interesting trade, I suppose. However, still not getting triggered as far as the greater term timeframes go. Just the short term timeframes, of which actually did take a little bit of a scalp myself off this area right here once I woke up. Because I've been up all fucking night, so it's quite easy to do that. But shitting your brains out at the same time makes for a little bit of a mess. Anyways, let me make sure that I'm recording. I am recording. The microphone's working, so that's good. And what do we see? So let's now go over the low-term time frame oscillators here and see what's going on right now. Does look like 4-hour Stokes are going to be headed down right here. We do see a nice counter trend line coming in somewhere right around the 30 marker, which I don't really think that this is much here. In fact, that's probably not going to get respected, and I don't really trust that all that much, especially only a couple iterations. Probably not going to be good enough. I think we're going to have to go to the higher term timeframes for that. I don't want to be making any excuses for price action right here, especially when it's very close to actually crumbling down. But let's see what our other lower term time frame momentum oscillators are suggesting right now. We do see 3-hour Stokes. That one actually does have a nice trend line. I think we spoke about this one yesterday, coming in from 25th of May. Yes, so that was that low right there. 3rd of June low as well, and then 11th of June low, once again getting tapped into it, but needs to hold up. So far so good. It is a little bit of a hammer dildo, albeit on a 3-hour. And do we have bullish divergence perhaps in the making? Yes, if this does confirm as a local low. How will this confirm as a local low? Well, needs to have a nice little stop and reverse confirmed, which right now we have a nice hammer, which is a reversal formation. However, However, need some follow through on top of that. I'd say until it gets closes above 9150-ish region, I wouldn't really consider it. I wouldn't really consider it divergence to be played, at least. However, if that does happen, I would be looking for another retest of this trend line that initiated that big breakdown. We'll call it like 9300-ish region, and the same sort of areas essentially apply here. The margins are relatively tight as Bitcoin does still coil itself into this region. But keep in mind that looking at historical volatility percentile on the daily, I'm going to imagine that we're still relatively low here. So we've still yet to see even the move within the short term, as I do want to see this area tested at some point, this area coming in on the retest of this long trend line that we've had since mid-March, getting all the last few spikes within this greater contraction phase. So I would still be looking for a big bad split up to this region. Does that mean that we haven't seen the big move yet? Yes, that's exactly what it means, actually. In fact, the macro move is probably not coming in for another few months anyways. Statistically speaking, very, very likely to happen somewhere right in this region right here. And that would likely be the break, again, of the macro range, which would either be below 6,900, maybe 7,500 is more accurate, actually, or above about 11,500. One of those two things would very likely correlate with that. So we're still kind of looking at a greater contraction phase, but still within that, we're likely to break this range, I do believe, sooner rather than later, as anytime that we've gotten this low on historical volatility percentile on the daily, I mean, we're setting up for multi-$1,000 moves. Last time that we were actually this low in a 0 or 1 read. It was middle of September 2019, which of course that was getting ready to move from about 10,300 all the way down to 7,000, 6,000 essentially, and you could even say lower over time to 4,400. Although I think that that's a little bit of a stretch there, as that was like months later, to be fair. Anyways, time before that was obviously this area right in over here, coming in from the 4,000 reversal to the upside from we could say 4,000 to 6,000 relatively quick. I mean, you could also just say it's 4,000 to 14,000. We're talking about a macro reversal right there. Time before that was actually in 2018 in the death throes of this massive descending triangle right here before doing a 50% down from 6,000 to 3,000. So you kind of get where I'm going with this, and in the sense that we're looking at a multi-$1,000 move here, very, very likely. And when we are, if we are going to be looking at a multi-$1,000 move here, then it is extremely likely. Well, I mean, it's not extremely likely. It is implied that we will break either the bottom side of this range right here and destroy the ascending triangle and initiate that next major move to the downside. I do believe at the very least we'd head down to about 7,500, maybe even 6,900 over time, or we'd actually reverse right here and head back above, breaking the topside resistance right around 9,900 and initiate a move towards about 11,000, maybe even 11,500, and then get excited for that. But for right now, if Bitcoin can put in a low here, and I'm just saying if it can, this is not confirmed just yet, and we're literally on the first day of this down dildo right here. So obviously it's not going to even be confirmed today, unless if you see like a closure back above 9,300 by end of day. I think that that's relatively unlikely. I think it's likely to put some time in here if it is going to put in a low here and give a nice another few spikes into the 8,900 liquid zone. But if it were to, then we would very likely have, or at least I'm going to guess that we would have hidden bullish divergence. So yes, it is actually formulating right now. Or sorry, it's not necessarily formulating because we are still in the midst of this day. It's intraday action right now. But as you can see, this 23rd of May low right there would suggest that we actually do have hidden bullish divergence. And it would actually be 3 strikes as well, coming in from this low right here, this low right here, and this low potentially right here, theoretically. For right now, there's no trend line to be made on it, but it would be it would be also considered a rejection of the bearish control zone plus a lower low with a higher low on price action. So that would be saying that bears are using more energy, more weight to get less further down, saying that their power is waning here. But that's again only if Bitcoin can confirm a local low here. So the only way that I really consider this as a local low confirmed with conviction, or at least medium-term conviction, we could call that, is if we see another daily total closure or even a 4-hour coming back above 9,300. If that were to happen, I would be looking at this very likely as a local low, and that would very likely initiate a move back up to the top side of the range, somewhere between about 97 and 9,800 region, maybe even all the way up to 9,900. But still, that is the fuckboy range, and the same sort of logic applies that I've been saying for the last couple weeks. As long as Bitcoin's within this region, it's obviously more exciting to the upside, just like right now it's more exciting to the downside. But until we actually break above this blue box territory at about 9,900 for the more aggressive traders, 10,000 for the more conservative traders, It's ripe. It's ripe for the fucking eating, just like kind of this area is right here, right now for the downside bears. However, if Bitcoin does break below 89.50, especially on a 12-hour or daily total closure, then yes, I would be looking for big bad moves to the downside at the likely a very quick move down to about 81.50ish region right here at the 382 fib. I do think that we would very likely bounce there. I don't really have a bounce target for that. Just anything that's lower than about 8600ish region, and then I really be looking for Bitcoin to come all the way back down to the 0.5 at about 7500. That actually fulfilled a measured move off of the counter break from this formation, which, by the way, just because it's a sunny triangle doesn't mean it's always going to break out to the upside. I've seen every pattern break out every goddamn which way. It's just more likely to, if we're talking about statistics, which that is the only real reason to use technical analysis to begin with. Anyways, I do think that the 0.5 actually could have a good chance to reverse it, especially considering that this is a pretty historical horizontal area coming in from this last major accumulation zone in December 2019, and then also this big bad breakout in April 2020 this year before, pretty massive move up from 7,500 to basically 10,000. So I do think that area would be of interest. However, I wouldn't really call it before I actually see it. And if we do see any sort of weakness within this region, I think it'd be very, very likely to see 6,900-ish region after that. That's where the macro picture really comes into question, as not only would that confirm just, an overall lower high, but it'd be another macro lower high overall, which then this starts to look like just the death throes the Republic, as I've been referring it to, which I think actually really accurately describes Bitcoin if it were to confirm a local low here, or sorry, a local high here. But for right now, we do have regular bearish divergence on the weekly. It's not anything too crazy, but lower highs on RSI with higher highs on price action. Now, the easy target from that was already had down to the 10 simple right here, which was that 8,900 tick. That's what was kind of governing our low side target from yesterday. Of course, all these things are confluent. That would be that would be the rise support trend line for the ascending triangle. It also would be the 55 or the 50 on the daily. You get where I'm going with that. So that's all kind of incorporated with each other. That's why I wasn't necessarily referring to it as a 10 simple, but it's all in the same area nonetheless. And I would expect a bounce here regardless of whether you're bullish or bearish, which we're seeing right now. Obviously, Bitcoin's about 200, $300 off the lows. And at this price point, that's actually, that's more than a 3% move, which is pretty damn good. But fair enough, now is going to be really insightful how this next week goes. If Bitcoin starts to close, or if Bitcoin even just takes out the low side of this consolidation in late May at about 86.50, or hits one of those notes that we spoke about earlier with the 12-hour daily below 89.50, or a 4-hour below 8,700, one of those four things would initiate the extra downside for myself. At the very, like I said, at the very least, 8,100. Extremely likely, probably a bounce there, then 75, then maybe 69. I want to see that one in real time. I would not feel good trying to trade that one like with clairvoyance way far ahead. It's just that's more crystal ball shit. That's not real technical analysis. Anyways, as it is right now with the weekly, this is a precarious place because we are going to see weekly stokes very likely come under pressure here if Bitcoin fails to find its footing back above even the short-term pivot by end of week. That would be 7,300 and then 7,500. To keep in mind what this would need to, not 73, not 75, 93 or 9,500. And with the weekly, we actually will turn momentum back onto the downside with any sort of a weekly total closure below 9,500. So perhaps I could just get rid of that 9,300-ish area and just go with the medium-term area at about 9,500 and say that is the pivot to be watching. And pressure is down from the higher term timeframes as long as we are below that region. So that really does switch around a lot of things. It doesn't mean that it's 100% going to break to the downside, but it's not good. And we really need to see continuation of the upside, as we spoke about last week, for bulls to really be in full control. And we're just not seeing that right now. Hesitation in this region, as I've been saying, is not a good thing. It's not all over just yet, but I mean, you really have to think about, the more time spent within this region is not going to imply good things. Anyways, let's go check out the 2-day and the 3-day as well. I haven't checked out these guys in a little bit. 2-day is flirting around with a break of the 21 exponential moving average, but hasn't done it just yet. Do we get a new one tonight? No, tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So I'll hold off on saying anything until tomorrow because it's just too far away for right now. And the 3-day is going to be closing the same day, actually. So same thing for that one. But as you can see here on the 3-day, momentum remains to the downside as long as we're closing below 10,200. On the 2-day, it's below. It's downside momentum as long as we are closing below 9,900 essentially. So these are starting to really not look all that hot. And remember, this is kind of a continuation of the jewel sell signal that we got about 2 weeks ago. And I just want to take a second to remind the people in the jewel, or anyone for that matter, who's using technical analysis as their edge. When you're trading a daily, don't expect the results on the same fucking day, or even the next day, or even the day after that. You're really looking at, a wide berth of a price action, because keep in mind, this signal was officially held on the 3rd of June and fully confirmed on the 4th of June. We're now on the 15th of June, and that was when Bitcoin price action was all the way up here. It even tried a little bit of a rally right after that, and then started to actually initiate the downside. So, patience is a virtue in this game, especially when you do find a damn good jewel sell signal, which this is not perfect. It's pretty damn good, but it's not perfect. So even then, powerful enough to get, well, I suppose that would be about $1,000 delta right there. Yeah, 9,900 to 8,900. Yeah, pretty damn good. So fair enough, with historical volatility percentile also posturing for very likely a nice move, at least to the top side of that trend line, as we spoke about, which would imply that we'd have plenty of energy to actually break below this area right here, or maybe even move to the top side of this range as well. But when you're closer to the bottom side of the range, well, it's obviously a lot more interesting to postulate downside ideas. But still, all of the same things that we've been speaking about for the last few weeks for the higher term timeframes applies. Let's go check out daily momentum, which is now going to remain to the downside as long as we're closing daily deltas below 9,600. That's essentially using this as as your last little lower high. Not good. Daily Stoics getting all the way down there. Don't see anything too much of interest here. As far as that goes, just downside still kind of coming. The only real hope that I see for momentum also is going to be potentially hidden bullish divergence on the daily. But even then, as long as Bitcoin's below 9,500, pressure's down from higher term timeframes, we could very easily look for bounces in low term timeframes, of which we kind of already spoke about, which actually do think that Bitcoin is going to bounce up and give a little bit of a try at the very least a 9,300 or 9,250-ish region, probably sometime today. But can it actually get above those regions? Well, I mean, that would be great, but it doesn't really do anything for the high term timeframes. It's 9,500 that needs to be closed above in order to make this look like another higher low, especially from the higher term time frame. So that's what I really be focused on right now. I do see that the 4-hour is, nope, I'm not really seeing anything right there. What about 4-hour RSI? Do we see any sort of potential hidden divergences as well? Yes, it could be forming, but needs to confirm this as a local low first. If it can confirm it as a local low, then yeah, I would target that move up. As much as 9,500-ish region, very, very likely 93 though. And again, how would this confirm a local low? Well, I need to see a clear stop and reverse. Right now we have a stop. Do we have a reverse? Well, in order to get that, we might even have to go to the very low time frames right here. Maybe an hourly close above 9,200 probably does it. Very, very difficult just because the margins are so fucking close. So, I really want to hold off on saying anything like that. We do have regular bullish divergence forming on the hourly right now. And technically we do have a nice clear stop and reverse point. So fair enough. Looks like short-term timeframes do want to give a little bit of a rally here. 2-hour has no divergence to be found, by the way. Quite nasty, quite ugly, and not good, man. Jesus. Anyways, let's go check out CMEs. How are they going to open up the week as well? Well, we're opening right up on the 10 simple, as you can see, and momentum stays to the downside here as long as we're below 9650-ish regions. So not good there either. But still can make a few squints of the eye and see some Jesus toast in there, perhaps. As a lot of people have been asking me about this on the weekly RSI. Can we just redraw this? Yes, you can redraw it, and that's the problem with fucking wedges. Why I don't like using them as an edge, because technically you could do that, and you could just as easily redraw this one as something like this and make it just one even more massive wedge. Yes, that would work, but it would also imply that we're going to come down pretty damn hard here, or at least very likely come down hard here back at least and test around the bearish control zone. Maybe a short-term bounce off this area, off the exponential on this. But at the end of the day, man, this would not be immediately strong. This would suggest that Bitcoin's going to have a pretty nice pullback as far as the macro goes. This is how I was plotting it before, and yes, that is the correct way to do it. But the second that we come back down after last week's close, as we spoke about, that's weakness being shown. We really needed to see it take out that continuation high from the 4th of May 60 tick right there, which did not happen. So again, this is patient trading, I suppose. But Bitcoin being a very bad boy right now. Let's see if it can actually pull through perhaps sometime this week. Now, I do want to check out the greater market. I want to see what Mr. Buterin is doing right now. We said that Mr. Buterin was actually likely to come back down to 215. I think that we actually got that. Yes, we did. Hey, nice one. Now can use that as a nice pivot point as well. As long as we're above 215, does it try to put in another anemic rally here and maybe even another lower high? Yes, but as long as it's below 250-ish region, this last prior high, well, it's not too interesting from any sort of an upside trajectory. However, if it does break below 215, that's essentially the same area that I look at on Bitcoin as about 8,900-ish region. So if that does break, look for a very likely retrace all the way back down for, at the very least, down to about 183, probably even 175, and then we'll talk about further targets to the downside after that. But for right now, what does Mr. Buterin look like? It looks like a fucking dead heartbeat. I mean, as do most of these things. I mean, at some point, when you look at a chart like this, that has that dead heartbeat signature. I mean, at what point do you just give up on the asset? Well, the Ripple crew loved this one yesterday. got a lot of very mad tweets about this one, the dead heartbeat of Ripple me nipples. At the end of the day, man, it's about to have a death cross on the weekly, and just giving a little bit of an insight in what typically happens on that. Look at Litecoin. Litecoin actually got it a few weeks ago, and just putting in some lower highs alongside the 21. I mean, it's trending to the downside on the macro. So if you loved Ripple at a quarter, you're gonna fucking love it at what's going to be an absolutely great target here. Well, probably get another chance to double down. I mean, fucking quadrillion down at 15 cents. And well, if that one breaks, then we can talk about single digits once again. 5 cents looks like a good target long term for me. But again, that's all going to come along the side of what Bitcoin does here. Does Bitcoin fail another macro rally, which is kind of looking like it right now, but still unconfirmed? Well, then yes, I would be looking for Ripple to come for the full return all the way back down to 5 cents. But if Bitcoin does pull through here and head back above 9,500, I would imagine most of the market's going to at least attempt another rally. So at the end of the day, man, it's just straight up levels here. We're looking at another long form consolidation, as we typically do in Bitcoin land, which is usually going to lead up into your reversals. To be fair. It's usually going to lead up into your reversals. Bitcoin has a lovely history of doing this. A couple month consolidation on the lows right here before a nice reversal. Month-long consolidation right here before a nice reversal. Big consolidation right here, 3 months in a descending triangle before a nice reversal for about half a year. Big 3 month consolidation right here before a massive reversal for Jesus Christ, from 3,000 to 14,000 essentially. Big consolidation right here for 3 months between basically end of 2018 before a nice massive continuation, actually 50% down. So Bitcoin does have a damn good history of doing shit like this, and usually it does turn into reversals. Not always, and that's why I do want to keep an open mind and open heart here. But as long as Bitcoin's below 9,500, it's not. I mean, short term, you can probably play some bounce here and there. I mean, I'm doing the same thing right now. But as far as medium and long term, it's pressure down. It's not looking all that healthy. So fair enough. Let me double check on time. Okay, this video is going to be a little bit shorter because I'm in the midst of dealing with all this bullshit, and well, it is what it is, man. Let's go check out NASDAQ futures. We said that it was likely to come down this week. I was actually looking for a bounce to open the week up, but ultimately I do think that it still comes down to about 9250-ish region, somewhere around the 10 simple, similar to Bitcoin as well. And I'd be looking for a nice medium-term bounce off of that area as well. Same sort of thing, essentially. 4 hour is going to try to put in, actually 4 hours is going to try to put in a low right here. And I do think that it will rally off and likely give a try back up to like the mid 960s region. But overall, as long as this thing's below 9,800, it's just another lower high, even on the medium time frames here. So it is pressure down as well, similar to Bitcoin. And as we've been saying for traditional markets, looking for a pullback sometime late June, early July. And I believe that's what we're seeing right now. And the same targets that I've kind of had for this pullback are still very much viable, down to about 9,100-ish region, give or take about $50, is where I'd be looking for. And then potentially, if that area does fail, which I don't have a strong opinion on whether it fails or not. I only have a strong opinion on once we see it, then I'd be looking for a move down to about the mid 890s region, and that's where I'd actually be looking for a big bad low. And I'm actually not looking for like a massive reversal here back down to the prior lows or beyond. That's not a topic of conversation, at least in my mind, as long as we're above 8,600 or wherever the 200 simple is and 200 exponential moving averages on the daily here. I just think that that's very premature to get too bearish off that. But yes, does look like of course the fucking dishes have to be done right now. Of course, what thread was I on right now? All right, well, whatever. We're looking at E-minis now for SPY, and 295 area has been hit. I think we spoke about this one yesterday as well. That was kind of a short-term target this week. As far as the higher-term timeframes go, like the weekly, the same sort of logic here applies as NASDAQ futures. I'm not necessarily looking for like a full-on reversal back onto low, new all-time lows or anything like that. I want to be very clear in stating that, but I do think that mid 280s is quite likely. Maybe even mid 270s would be a potential target if we do start to fail the 280 region. But this is kind of the pullback that we've been looking for, coming into this month. But I do think that more importantly, it's going to turn into an opportunity. Actually, I don't think that is going to be the big bad reversal that most people are looking for. I think that's actually the crowded trade right now. But of course, time will tell. Anyways, let's see. Okay. Nice. Okay, great. Looking good over there. Okay. What else do we want to look at over here? Maybe look at gold really quick. Gold got the pullback that we were looking for to 1715 to be more accurate. And I do think that it will very, 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 very likely tries to bounce here and actually tries for 1800 again. Gold is the one chart that's actually looking good. And again, this is coming from someone who doesn't really, I don't own any gold. I don't care to own any gold. I think it's kind of silly. But as far as like a hedge goes, if you actually do, if you actually are looking for a hedge, well, I would have a very difficult time making a case for a hedge for Bitcoin. Gold seems to be acting in that vein. And in the way that this weekly is kind of postured right here, I mean, it's a very easy risk reward trade as long as we're above that 1715-ish region. I'm having trouble with my words. Overall fine. On a daily closing basis, 1680, let's just call it 1690, a little bit easier to round up there. Looks fine to me. However, if this thing does start to fail below either on a weekly, let's call it 1715, and then or a daily below 1690-ish region, then yes, I would be looking for a much deeper retracement into the low 1600s, but I don't think that's what's happening right here. Gold seems to be the one thing that actually is acting well right now. It's very constructive thus far, and I think that's important to acknowledge. Anyways, go check out probabilities with Bitcoin, and let's go back into the short-term ranges here for Bitcoin so that we can shore this up a little bit. So first and foremost, 4 hour is very likely looking like a nice little local low. So I do like that for right now. Do think that we probably will play out some upside, probably back up to like 93, maybe 93.50-ish region. But again, that doesn't really do anything. That's only for the short-term time frames, or even this horizontal right here at 92.50 is more relevant. It's 9,500 that starts to switch this around once again. At least for short-term, medium-term bullishness. Of course, for long-term, still 9,900 is the most relevant point. As long as we're below there, it's just difficult to get excited about any real upside outside of outside of this range that we've been playing in for the last month and a half now. So what I want to be looking at is still about 89.50 to the downside. So I want to get that on my cards right on over here. Okay, let's do 89.50, and then the upside I can keep at 9,500. Obviously the downside is going to be a lot higher probability right now. Momentum is turning back up right now, but this does not look very strong, to be fair. More importantly, the probabilities for closing above the 95. Hey, this is actually rather a surprise. This is quite a surprise right here. The probability of closing above 9,500 on the next 12-hour dildo closure, like this next one in 4 hours, is 29.25%. 29.29% to be exact. Below 89.50, which would constitute a break of the high term time frame range, is about 10.25. Which is actually decently high. Anything above 8% is actually is okay. Anything above 16% is like kind of likely. 10.25% is kind of right there in the middle. But my point is that right now, technically, the upside target probability is a little bit more likely, and that's $400 away from current spot price action at 91. And you would think that the 89.50 area would just be it's closer. It's $250 away. So, or yeah, it's $250 away. So, or is it 200? No, it's. Why can't I do math right now? It's $150 away, so it's actually a lot closer. But the probability of the upside is a lot more. So the momentum is actually indicative to shift here. So if I had to call a higher low on Bitcoin right now, I would. But remember, 9,500 still the big bad area. For daily closure, the above target probability is about 34.25%, and the downside target probability is 19.5%. Both of those are decently high, enough high to reasonably expect that we could very easily have a move outside of one of those ranges by the daily's close in 15 hours and 59 minutes and 39 seconds. So keep that in mind. I do think that from all perspectives regarding formations, volume signature, which by the way is tailing off quite aggressively now. This is actually getting really fucking aggressive, to be fair. We can expect a break of this. I really hate the word expect. I don't think that is right to say. Expectations are a terrible thing to have, and the worst word. It's a 4-letter word in a trader's lexicon. But if we are going off statistics, this is actually very likely to break. The greater formation here, as defined by the volume signature, by 16th, 17th, 18th of this month. So in the next few days, realistically, we're going to have a very, very strong chance to actually break this. And that would be either below 89.50 or above 9,900. So take that as you will, and that also does jive very, very well with the historical volatility percentile, which has been contracting as we've been speaking about on the dailies for the last couple months here, and postulating for it's an outlier of a move here. Really, we're looking at a $1,000 plus move. I mean, multi-$1,000 move here realistically. If we're going off of history from what this signature has produced in the past, I mean we've seen 50% drops and multi-$1,000 pumps based upon this in the past, and it's very consistent. So that's what's kind of driving my mentality here, thinking that if we do break to the downside, we're not going to stop at 8,100. We're very unlikely to even stop at 7,500. It's probably 69. And if 69 fails, then we have another macro lower high, and that's 3 years now of just lower highs. We haven't got any lower lows just yet, but at some point, this is going to start to look like one massive descending triangle, which is very bullish. No, just kidding. So yeah, at the end of the day, this is getting interesting here. This is really the time to be paying attention for the long-term traders or long-term investors, because your plans for Moon Boy dreams can be postponed for well, I won't say it, but you know what I'm about to say. Anyways, I think that's a good place to kind of leave this video off. It does look like we just closed a 2-hour and a 4-hour. 2-hour close is a nice hammer dildo. I want to see, a nice takeout of the last 2-hour high. Again, though, we actually don't have bullish divergence even on a 2-hour. It's kind of nasty. Hourly does, but hourly bullish divergence probably gets us back up to like 91.50-ish region. Doesn't really do much for price action. This area is too tight here for me to really say much more about it, because I don't feel that confident with it, and I think it's important to express when I'm not feeling confident. Above 92.50 on at least an hourly or 2-hour dildo closure, then yeah, we probably do see 9,500 again, but 9,500 is the big bad area for kind of like shifting around short-term, medium-term momentum and probabilities back up to the upside for the long-term breakout. For right now, it's pressured down, and Bitcoin having a very anemic response as the week opens. And I think that's a good place to leave this off. I would like to take a second to wish you the best and the happiest of the happiest, because why the fuck not? And that's been my motto for a while now. And I hope that can in some way help, because, well, I've been on Twitter today, and it seems like the world's falling apart as usual. Anyways, that's not real life. I would like to wish you well once again. Take care, and until next time.